Friends, today's session is going to be nothing short of inspiring. Imagine serving 21 years in the Navy with discipline and leadership, and then making a bold pivot into IT. And not just surviving, but thriving, climbing all the way up to the vice president in just 6 years. Yes, you heard it right. I'm inviting a very special guest who will share his incredible transformation story from defense to digital. And here's the best part, his journey is not just his, it's a roadmap for you guys. So, friends, if you are a non IT professional, housewife, or in career break, or even someone already into IT but stuck in your current role with limited growth or low salary and want to pivot, we got you back. We, as from a CareersTalk, we also run a comprehensive 6 month Scrum Master program where we teach you everything from scratch, step by step, until you are ready to step confidently into the IT world. So drop a comment, Scrum Master, and I will like to, I will give you more detail about the program. But today's session is all about Nanda. So friends, buckle up, stay tuned, and let's dive into this powerhouse session together. Friends, let me proudly welcome Nanda Kumar Das, Vice President at Genpact, and a man who was honored with the Innovation Trophy by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji during his tenure in the Indian Navy. So with all this, I invite you, Nanda. Thank you for joining us today. Nanda, over to you.
Thanks, Sunand. Thanks for having me on this call. Always a pleasure to speak to anybody who's taking initiative to help the larger good of humanity and professionals, and happy to help in any ways that I can in your endeavor.
Thank you. Thank you, Nanda. Thanks a lot. So if you allow, shall we start?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So my very first question is like, what motivated you to transition from a 21 years career in a Navy to IT industry, and how did you identify that Genpact was the right next step for you?
Great question. See, 21 years, probably if I put my training period also into it, it is actually 25 years. So I very strongly believe that it is destiny which got me into the Indian Navy and destiny which got me out of the Indian Navy. To narrate a small story, nobody in defense in the family, like belonging from South India, and one day, mom brings in lady's finger packed in a piece of paper. Once I unravel it, that is the paper had the UPSC admission into that. Put a what do you say an iron box into it, pressed it, wrote the application there, applied, got selected. Had not known about NDA at that time. Very lucky and fortunate to join the 90th course. Why that special is because our course were the first one to enter battle when Kargil happened, and unfortunately, I happened to lose 25 of my very close friends in Kargil, and that kind of changed the entire environment. And you kind of become a patriot, you become a kind of purpose rubs onto you to do something. Not as much as those people could do, but in small ways as much as possible. And that's one of the reasons I'm sitting in front of you today on this conversation. To coming to your question finally, which is what led to this transition. Yes, destiny had a role to play, and I'll be very candid and honest. Is because I've always been a soldier. I've never would have thought of coming out of the
Yeah.
Navy, but I missed my promotion time by 6 months because of whatever reason. That's a different story for a different day. And I thought that there is a message that I've been sent that, and
Mhm.
Indian Navy was quick to identify the mistake which had happened a couple of years before in my career, remove that narrative from my dossier, and promote me for the next board. However, they could not give me the 6 months that I lost in the bargain. And if you realize that it's such a pyramid in the armed forces, that if you lose 6 months, you're probably out of the game. You can't never be the chief of the naval staff again. And for me, unless you became an admiral, I thought it was not worth the time there. So without any guilt, had I moved out for my own interest, that guilt would have always been there. That you moved out for something of your self interest, but ISB came in as a conspirator, if you will, in that, as they came up with a fantastic scholarship because probably because of the achievement that you called out in my introduction. Thanks for that. And so couple of things put together, right? Daughters were growing up, I would have got a transferable job. So their education was being taken care in Delhi. All
Understood.
these things put together, I realized that probably
Mm.
this is a calling the destiny is doing. That time is about right to dwell into uncharted waters, as I call it, as a submariner. You are sailing, and that's the terminology which is a
True.
nautical terminology calling moving out of uncharted waters, and then that's the reason why I thought of moving my switching into the IT domain at that.
Okay, great, great. So, if I have to ask you, like, okay, which are the skills from your Navy background that directly help you, in succeeding at your first corporate IT role, and which one maybe you have to unlearn or you have to adapt, So, if you can shed some light, that would be great.
Yeah, I truly give complete credit to the Indian Navy for building me into the professional, into the soldier, into the human
Mm.
being that I am. And leadership is probably the biggest trait that has been bestowed by the military onto me. Uh, Leading by example, right? Being for your people, setting up for them for success, taking some courageous decision, a balanced risk and reward decision. So these are the skills which I thought, which I brought it from the Indian Navy, and it was a clear plug and play into the corporate. And many things in addition to that, right? In the Navy, contrary to the local belief, it's a kind of an agile mindset which is continuously being developed in the Navy. Every second or third year, you are doing a course in the Indian Navy. You do your ab initio young officers course, then you are doing your specialization. I did in navigation in a mid segment. When you're mid leadership course, you do go to some an institution called Defense Services Staff College. Then there is this submarine XO, we call it the Perishers course, the commanding officers qualifying course. So the Navy puts you through
Mm.
classroom instructions and what do you say on job training to upskill you and bring you up the level. So that continuous learning agility is another thing which I embraced from the Navy and brought it in, which was quite successful for me personally in the corporate. One interesting fact about the unlearning, yes, it's very important. As much as you learn, you need to unlearn as well. Command and control is something that I realized that, which was a strong point in the Navy, started becoming a little bit of a weak element in my corporate career, because uh, 20 25 years is a long time, and
Correct.
you generally have that uh, what do you say
Mindset
blend
which is,
into your DNA, right?
yes,
So
absolutely.
if you and you kind of curtain dry when you're delivering that. So that thing is when I had to work on myself to mellow it down over first couple of years, because the feedback that I got from my supervisor at that time is some of my DRs felt that he is having a little bit of strong reins onto. So what
Mm.
I wanted to do, I was implementing it. So that was a fantastic unlearning that to do, being more collaborative than being directive. That was a learning which was very very critical on that. Then the collaborative element became very very important. So there is a decision, because I'm leading a set of people who know certain aspects of the job better than me. Now in
True.
on top of that, if I impinge my decision on that, if those ideas don't surface, probably the entire team is not going to move forward. So I realized that early on, mended my ways. Whenever that there was this urge to speak and correct that course of discussion, I held myself back, let the
Mm.
discussion brew up, and then added on my elements when I thought the time was right, rather than diverting a decision into. So this resulted in a lot of fresh ideas, new ideas for transformation, transition come up to the surface, and then we could implement a lot of them, and it was a great thing which was happened. So this was a major unlearning in that. And last but not the least, shedding hierarchy became very very important, right?
Mm.
In the military, it's a hierarchical kind of scenario. Here everybody is flat, and my organization that I come from believes in being a flat organization. The junior most can call up the senior, the CEO of the company, if his or she has got a good idea, and bounce it off and have a very healthy decision on that. So these were certain elements of learning and unlearning, so that I
Wonderful.
wanted to share.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Nanda, for that. Okay, so let's go back to a time, let's say 6 years back,
Yeah.
when you are, let's say, giving your interview. So, what was the biggest challenge which you have faced in probably in convincing the recruiters or the interviewers that you could excel in an IT leadership role despite having a non-IT background. So if you can recall something, some of the things which you
Yeah.
told to these people, so that really going to help our audience.
Yeah. See, you can put it that I was a little fortunate to get a job which did not need deep IT domain expertise. It
Mm-hmm.
was bid management, strategic bid management, which yes was the core was yes, I had a larger team to handle and lead and manage. In
Mm-hmm.
addition to that, it was at the core of it, it was project management, and I had done various types of project management in the armed forces. So it was a kind of a clear switch. But what is important is you cannot stay a project manager for long because each of them have got their vertical, they have their domain knowledge, they have their specifics on certain aspects, and you cannot, as they say in a phrase that is called right, you can't get into a pond and fight with crocodiles. Uh, that statement is where you should understand what is your strength, what you bring to bear. As a leader, in my view, you are a dot connector, which probably a skill at a tactical level, a tactician or a managerial level person might not have. So you bring in
Mm-hmm.
those elements of your strength, being a strategician in that regard. So that is where I was able to bring in those kind of skills into that, and the project management muscle was very helpful for me to get into the role. And many of the questions which came for the interview was also based on project management. And my
Mm-hmm.
experience in the Navy also gave me a good exposure to certain other domains like procurement. I was in the acquisition directorate in New Delhi in Sena Bhavan here, wherein I had the opportunity to acquire a lot of very costly high technology, sophisticated item for the Indian military. So that gave me a good exposure there. As I handle supply chain, various types of across industries in various roles. So all these elements help me to adapt into this zone. So
Mm,
that's
wonderful, wonderful. So just for the audience, like project management is not just related to IT. There are hundred of different ways that you can do a project management. So that's great, great. So if I have to now ask you, like, what kind of preparation did you do before applying, or how you got this your first interview call? Did you learn any IT tools, or you study, as you mentioned, any project management framework? For example, you've done any certification like PMP or something like that, or how you crack it, like how you crack these corporate processes. So if you
it.
can recall any of those things, that will be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm of a firm opinion that yes, you should know the expertise, you should have the experience on a very large scale.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it is storytelling which actually really works. How are you able to put that idea which is there in your
Exactly.
mind in a very lucid and explanatory and strong manner to the person in front of you becomes very important. And that fortunately happened to be one of my strong points at that. So you're right. I've not gone for the certification of PMP, but one of my good friends told the importance of PMP. So the PMP syllabus I had actually gone through completely
Mm.
before my interview process, and parallel because I did this executive MBA, which was an 18 months program from
Mm.
Indian School of Business. A lot of things were prepared by the best professors coming in from Kellogg's, Wharton, because ISB puts in their
Okay.
best faculty to coach and upskill you. So that was fortunate to get enrolled in that, get selected to ISB. So that, having said that, that done end to end, I didn't actually feel the need for doing an end to end PMP certification. But I'll be very honest, for aspiring folks who want to be project
Mm.
managers, PMP prints are great certifications for all of you to have, and it is not going to hurt you in any way. So I would, but I had the framework which I could apply onto the interview
Mm.
questions, and then answer certain thoughts and answers which came my way through those frameworks which are there, right? And additional subjects like corporate strategy, competitive strategy, and when I blend it with military strategy, I realized that a lot of things are very common,
Common,
right? In the
yes.
sense, competitive strategy, to speak about it, there are various strategies, right? If your competitor is very strong, you go frontal. If you have a strength which he doesn't have, you go flank them. So these are all military strategy which is blended into corporate strategy, which I realized because of my exposure to both military strategy and corporate strategy. And I'm proud to say that I'm Masters of Science degree in both these elements. When I did my staff college, I'm an MSc in Defense and Strategic Studies, and the MBA part is where I'm a master's into the business strategy as well. These experiences and knowledge actually came
Mm.
a lot into my rescue, if you will, during the interview process.
Wonderful, Nanda. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, friends, we are halfway through our session. So, take a quick pause, hit that like button, subscribe. And if you are finding value in this conversation, please share this session with your LinkedIn connections, your WhatsApp group. You never know who might benefit from this session. So please do that. So with this, let me ask you the next question. So what were your, okay, now you cracked the interview, but then what are your biggest challenges during, let's say, your first few months in your IT role? And, and how you bridge those knowledge gaps initially, let's say 30 days, 60 day, 90 day, or 6 months, for example. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you can share some of those, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you would realize that when you come in, and I came in at a director level when I joined. Then later, as you brought out, later on got promoted to vice president in 3 years' time. Uh, but it is like coming into an alien territory, if you will, because
Mm,
uh, in other words, it's somebody who's come there, taken a job which could have been a right of another IT professional, probably who was aspiring to grow into that role from this thing, right? So there is a little bit of animosity is a very strong word, a reluctance kind of an environment. But yes, I would give it to you that the respect that a military veteran carries, that came to immense rescue of mine. Basically, people thought that yes, he served the nation, so that I got that benefit of the doubt there. But what troubled me were the jargons, the
mm,
abbreviations. And believe you me, I invested a lot of time in upskilling me. So this I joined in July 2019, just before COVID. Every day, even though working hours used to start at 10 o'clock, I am in office at 9 o'clock. From 9 to 10 was my undisturbed time for getting into our. We have got a fantastic learning and development program and platform called Genome in Genpact, which has got content from Harvard, Kellogg's, all those top rich contents, videos. So I used to invest time in learning about my part of business. That really helped me, and that also helped me in another way when my peers and subordinates in the team saw that the kind of effort that I was putting in, right? I did not come and stake my claims and throw up my rank and say, hey, I'm here, you guys just follow me. I went, sat with the junior most managers, assistant managers, sat with them, shadowed them on deals, and then most importantly, I did those deals myself. So in Navy, there is a terminology called holy stoning. What it means that as an officer cadet, you are also supposed to scrub the deck, clean the toilets,
mm.
live the life that your sailor has lived. Because once you do that, you'll understand
Then
the
yeah, the pain, the
tough
process.
day in the day of a manager or a bid manager at that. Once you realize that, you develop the empathy as a leader. That is very, very important before leading a set of people. So you should go through what the soldiers went through. I did say a handful of bids myself, realize the challenges in that, right? Weekend work comes in, stakeholders are tough, there is a lot of time constraints, pressure, all those things. You experience it yourself as a leader. When you do it and send out that positive vibe outside, 99% of the time it is positivity and acceptance that will come your way. And that is how I could navigate the initial days in corporate. And I was fortunate to have a beautiful, fantastic team who worked with me, helped me, trained me, coached me to become their leader.
Wonderful. So, Nanda, now I have a next question is somewhat related with this, but it's a little different. So, for example, how did you earn the trust, or how you are going to establish that kind of authority among the teams who might have more technical expertise than you, And why
Yeah,
I'm asking this question, because this is very much related with our audience who are, let's say, Scrum Masters or project managers, or, who want to be a project manager or Scrum Master. They're not always coming from the technical backgrounds,
yeah,
right? And it's sometimes very difficult. So for example, there's a guy who is in your project and who is already working from last 20 years, and then how to, or maybe his age is, let's say you are into your 40s, but someone is into 50s or 60s, so for
Yeah.
example. So
Yeah.
how you going to do that? How you manage those kind of difficult situations?
Correct. So as a leader, right, what the teammate of yours want is always that corporate question with him, what is in it for me, what is that you are giving me? So you carry a lot of experience from the military, from other exposures that you have now. And change management is a very critical element where, right, and if a team is transforming, there is a lot of reluctance amongst the front line to change, accept new tools, generative AI, agentic AI, all those things. You have to be leading by example. You'll have to be learning those things yourself and putting that layer of strategy on top of those people. So when I go as a bid leader with my bid manager into a large strategic bid, I cannot just be a fly on the wall and keep sitting, right? And what one thing which worked really well for me in the military, you call, right, service before self. I coined a similar term for myself in the corporate. Individuals, the organizational interest are always above individuals interest, and that individual is not just you. Anybody who's not aligned with the organizational well-being, or you have to put your foot down and tell that this will not work, right? And it is very easy for a leader to tell a subordinate that uh, no, you go and tell him that this is not the way to do. But it is different when he sees you telling that thing in front of you. Lead by example and say, okay, Mr. Seller, I understand that. However, we don't see this deal a worth deal to be pursued the company. Even if you will win this deal, we are going to lose a lot of margin and lose a lot of revenue in the bargain. And once they see you doing it, that is the courage element and the change element that you are infusing into your team. So from being order takers to being trusted partners, a lot of enablement has to be being done by. So you don't have to, but not to get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I shut myself completely out of the IT domain. And that's where, again, contrary to local belief, Navy is one of the most high tech services that you can ever think of. And we have trained in torpedoes, missiles, right? The sensors, radar, sonars, which are the highest end of high tech hardware and software technology which comes. So you understand that, and how do you modify into IT terminology, and nothing comes without hard work, right? And that kind of an effort has to be put by you. You cannot stay back and say, I don't know this, but I'm your leader, just go and follow. You have to learn it, put your dot connection capability, your strategic capability on top of that. And that is what these guys are actually looking up to you. And that is a skill they are looking up for, embracing from you to grow up the ladder. And as a leader, you should be walking that talk with them. One subtle thing which I did differently, which I've seen not a lot of corporate leaders do,
Mm-hmm.
is being that partner in their journey. So if I
Right.
have 80 people, I know all 80 by their name. What are their positive strokes? What is the life's purpose? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What actually excites them and what turns them down? And give them an accelerated push to reach there. It is not saying good feedback, hello, hi, you've done well kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give them critical feedback, right? And even if it's a very tough conversation, when that person left my room, either hey, Nanda was very hard with me today, but I agree one thing. He has got my best interest in his mind.
True.
That is the leader's real contribution,
Wonderful.
right? So that's
Absolutely. Wonderful, Nanda. Great.
yeah,
Okay, now let me ask you something little different. So
yeah,
now you have already seen it from last, 6, 7 years. So what advice would you give to someone in a completely different industry? So let's say someone is from the manufacturing, or let's say someone from the defense and who wants to enter into IT at a mid or a senior level. So now you have already seen the both the worlds. So yeah, with lot of new information which you have. So what is your advice? So let's say today someone wants to enter into IT.
yeah. So see, first of all, the why should be very clear in your head. It
Mhm.
is not, you have to articulate, strategize that move really, really well onto that why do you want to switch? It is not that I feel like switching, so I want to switch kind of scenario. So in my view, there should be a connection with the purpose to that why that you've coined yourself. Once you've done that, it is my theory. I could be totally wrong. What I've realized is that if this is the zone wherein you are moving, switching an industry or a domain, there should be a springboard which should be there with you. And that springboard is probably an MBA, an upskilling through an MBA, or any specific program which aligns with your next role in that. Like if you're an IT professional, what I've heard, as you grow, your technical knowledge is always bringing you as a system integrator. You are a very sharp guy, but you are not able to understand the aspects being a business integrator. So understanding the business is very important. And as you grow, understanding the revenue generation capability, or the machinery of revenue generation, all becomes very, very critical. And unless you have a complete basic and very strong knowledge about that aspect, so I would recommend an MBA for folks who are moving from switching it, or even you are moving from an individual contributor to a leadership role aspiring. An MBA becomes. And my theory is this, Sunant: if you don't have an MBA, you're starting the race 20 meters behind the start line. If you have any sort of MBA, right, a second tier, I don't want to name so as not to be biased, from a second tier institution, you are starting on the start line. If you are an MBA from a pedigree institution like an Indian School of Business, IM, A, B, C, INSEAD, right, Kellogg's, Wharton, you are starting that race 20 meters ahead of the start line. And that gives you a lot of credibility, not just the academic prowess that you're getting, but the network that comes along with it, right? So if you are from Indian School of Business, there are a lot of very strong networks that you get in the bargain. You changing your job, and at a senior level, you will also very much agree with me, Sunand, is that it is not just sending a resume and getting a job. A referral is very important. A recommendation is very, very important in this. So that is a critical advice I would give. And all other micro certifications, macro certifications, PMP, Agile Scrum Master, right, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. These are all very good certifications to add on to upskill you to take you to the next level, to the next role.
Wonderful. Okay. My next question is little different. So, what are the common mistakes non-IT professional make when they trying to pivot to IT roles, and how they can avoid it? So, you mentioned about that. Okay, they should do some professional courses. What
Yeah.
else? Is it like if they can find some good mentor or something who can help you in this journey? Probably that can help, or they just do everything all alone, or they just Google it, or they just wasting a lot of time alone, or something like that. You want to
Yeah.
share some of the mistakes which could be avoided.
Correct. See, they say, right, wise men always learn from others' mistakes. So, having a mentor, having coaches who have more experience than you and learn these things the hard way, right? At least they will not let you make the same mistakes yourself. So, having a mentor, having a guide is very, very critical. One thing which I feel that you cannot beat experience right away. So if you are getting into an IT domain, don't try and be superior in probably a full stack developer kind of a capability. You can't develop it. Somebody who's 15 years into that job, you cannot get there in 1 year. And so play to your strengths in that, and get to that 50, 60, 70% of expertise that you know, not to be a coder, but to an optimal what do you call operator of that technology. Similarly, like generative AI, agentic, technological mindset is something which is no longer a nice to have. It is a very, very, very important must have in today's
Very basically.
so you can't survive without that. You might survive for 1 or 2 years. Other after that, you're going to be obsolete unless you have the tech savviness in you, which is very, very, very important. My model, I call it the I model, the capital I model. When you're growing, you you should get into a role which is giving you a generalist. It can be a vertical agnostic. For instance, a bid manager role. For instance, he or she does bids across verticals, across domains and service lines. Somebody is doing a supply chain management, somebody is doing a finance and accounting in banking and capital markets, or manufacturing or high tech. So get that exposure, which is the bottom of the eye. Then you have to pick your domain where you have an aptitude, an attitude, they call it ikigai, and dive deep into that. Maybe do certifications, external upskilling coaches into that domain. So everybody should have one. My theory is that preferably two, but at least one domain which you should fall back to as an individual contributor. And once you read that 9 years, 10 years of service experience, you should again come back to a generalist, a super generalist at that time who's got a very strong vertical as in the domain. That will help you connect the dots, become a great leader, and then become a business integrator, as I brought it at the end of the day. So, business sense, business acumen is important as you move up. And not to get me wrong, if somebody is not willing to go that path, you sometimes you say I don't like going the business route. I'm okay with being a very steep technical professional. Absolutely fine. Pick your choice. Right? Be uh, whatever is your choice, you must pick and then move into that direction. So this is my thought process for a general trend of people moving up the leadership ladder.
Wonderful, Nanda. Thank you. And I think with this, we came to an end. So very quickly, we just finished half an hour. Great.
Awesome.
So, but then I'm loving this conversation. I'm definitely will going to have more session with you in future for sure. So thank you, friends, for joining us for today's session. We hope you found it helpful and informative. And if you enjoy the session, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And we hope to see you in our next session. Until then, take care. This is Sunil Sharma signing off along with Nanda. Thank you. Bye bye. And thank you, Nanda, one more time.
Bye, guys. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anand.